Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible to you clear? Can anyone unmute and tell me whether it is clear? Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Sunil. I saw your thumbs up. It's good. Thank you so much. Okay, now I am John. Before that, I just welcome everyone. Good afternoon, and I am John from Little Flower Engineering Institute, Kalamassery, Kochi, and I'm a senior instructor looking after in the electronics department. I think that is enough for the introduction. Today, I plan to discuss the three given topics. That is, one is the inverter. Definitely, all these three topics are definitely included in our level 2, I mean SEM 4, this thing, SEM 4 NIMI. So definitely it will be useful to all the students going through these topics. So I'll try to cover maximum possible points regarding all these three topics like inverter, then comes our UPS, then lastly, it's SMPS. Okay, these are the three subdivisions which I am going to handle today. And I'm sure definitely it will be useful. And I'll give a session at the end for clarifying the doubts. Definitely, I'll make sure that maximum output should be delivered to you through this session regarding all these three topics. Okay. So the first one I'll be taking the inverter. Why we require an inverter? What is the working principle? And what are their applications? This I'll be covering it. If anyone wanted to talk to me in any other language, I can be a little bit of comfort in Hindi as well in Malayalam. Even a little bit of Tamil also I may be able to manage. So the first one I'll be discussing with you, the inverters. After completing the inverters, the next I'll be going to the UPS, what their role, what the functions, and where all till this UPS is applied, and what are their applications. And the last one, it will be the SMPS, the working principle. What are the advantages if you compare with a normal, a linear power supply? So that and all we'll be discussing in the coming slides. So we will just go to the first lesson, that is inverters. Okay. The topic is like that, inverter, SMPS and UPS, and I'll just give a small idea of how it looks like. It looks like almost like this, even though we have so many variants. Not only this, there are 1,000 variants of different types of different companies, and I'll just give only a basic of this. I think you all understand the importance of giving only a 4 picture on this. And first one, I just give an inverter. It's a normal inverter. The inverter can be of solar inverters, or there are so many different variants. But I just only one I just showing it. The second one comes a normal, the general inverter, the power supply. I mean SMPS power supply, what we normally use in our day-to-day life. And the one which I especially shown is SMPS used for PCs. So why? Because we are concerned more on our PC SMPS. Why? Because in our subject, definitely we have to cover the PC also in that. Then the last one is the UPS. UPS, what are the importance of that. And the UPS, I've just shown only an example of it, and we have different type of that also, and different capacity and different usages. Okay, so then we will go for the next one. Now we'll start with an inverter. But before starting inverter, we must know what is a rectifier. What actually a rectifier does? A rectifier actually it converts an alternating current, or you can say it's a pulsating, an alternating current to a direct current or a DC. That's a duty of a rectifier. But if you come to the inverter is the just opposite, or you can say the reciprocate of that rectifier. Inverter actually what does is it converts a DC power supply to a pulsating or an alternate current supply. That means from DC it will convert to AC. This is the basic principle of an inverter. I think this much is clear. What is a rectifier does, or what a rectifier does, and what an inverter does. So this is the basic of it. Okay. Then we will just move on to the next one. Why we need an inverter? Okay, because there are so many power supplies in the market or this thing, but why we are focused on inverters? Nowadays the power supplies from the uh, commercial or from the grid, it can fail, or it can make some problems, it can make some variations, it can make some noises like it can surge or anything can happen. But that definitely it will affect our systems or whatever the output equipments we are using it, either in domestic or in the industries or any other places we use, definitely will affect. So what we do is we require a backup power in case a power failure is happening, especially in the domestic or in the small offices. So that is one reason why we need an inverter. So inverter actually, we have a backup power with a battery power. With that battery, we will generate the required uh, supply what we require it, and depend upon the requirement, we will adjust the frequency or whatever the voltage we can make it through an inverter. That means basically it converts a domestic battery to an AC. Okay. Then again, if you go for the next phase of it, we have to convert sometimes single phase or even three phase also we may have to make it. We have a battery, but we have to run a motor in an AC three phase motor, AC or a BLDC or any type of motor maybe, but we have to run into a three phase. So for making that three phase, definitely we require an inverter. Detailed circuitries and I'll be coming at the coming slides. How we are converting the DC to a single phase, then how we are converting to a three phase power supplies. Okay, so this is the second one, why we need an inverter. The third one you see here, nowadays the power supplies are getting, more friendly or renewable, like solar or wind or whatever, maybe more renewable, because the normal our commercial fuels like petrol, diesel, and all, they may diminish after some time, or they may stop even production of it because of so many reasons. So this solar is one of the best idea of going through. So solar definitely gives only a DC power. So with that DC, we just cannot do anything with that only DC. So what we do is, if we wanted to use it any commercial equipment or any other this thing, if we wanted to give to the power grid also, we have to convert that into a AC, either single phase or three phase. So this is the third one, that is the solar DC power conversion. Definitely, it will be very useful for us in the coming future, because we know the other normal fuels may come to a stop for a while, or maybe permanently, that we don't know. So this we must always promote this type of renewable energy sources. For that, definitely we have to make conversion to AC. Okay, in case of windmill, definitely we can get directly three-phase AC from the windmill. That is different. But from solar panel, definitely it's only DC that we have to convert it. And the last, or not the least, is the inverter is an integral part of a UPS and SMPS, because wherever any conversion happens from a DC to a higher level, or definitely this inverter comes into picture. So definitely inverter plays a big role in these two separate UPS and SMPS. So these are the main reasons why we need an inverter. So basically inverter converts DC to AC. Then maybe single phase or three phase. Then solar, DC to AC, even supplying to the power grid. Then last one is the UPS and SMPS uses this inverters. I think we'll go forward for the next slide. Before going to the inverters, we must know a little bit of history regarding this inverters. You know, inverters, we know that if you give a DC power supply, it converts to an AC. In olden times, what happens is, to make this DC supply, we were using an MG set. We call it MG set, means it is a motor generator set. The axle, both are being coupled together. We give a DC to the motor and the DC rotates, and the DC motor rotates. When it rotates, it coupled to an AC generator. So what happens is, this DC voltage turns the motor. In turn, it turns the generator and it's given alternate current, or we can say it's a AC generator. So definitely our purpose is solved, but we know the loss of power, because the amount of power we are given to the motor, this motor in turn has to turn the generator. Definitely we require a lot of power in that. So if there is no other go, only we use that type of conversion systems. Okay, that was in the earliest 19th centuries and only we were using like that. But now also we are using some of our labs and all to make you understand the conversion of AC DC or DC to AC conversions and all. We are using this type of motor gen sets or gen motor sets. Okay, that is for the study purpose and all. We are still using it. Okay, now after that, in the earlier 20th centuries and all, this system has been changed over to the vacuum tubes. We know vacuum tubes. Nowadays, it's very, very rare to see vacuum tubes or gas filled tubes because of the efficiency and all. We are not at all using it. But it is definitely was possible to make a high power switching due to, according to our requirement. Okay, that was, you can say, even the cyrotrons or the magnetrons, like that tubes, all very high power devices we were using previously for making this switching devices. But for that also we require a heavy power supply requirement, high voltage power supply we require it. Then we require a filament power supply to illuminate the cathode. Like that, there are so many complications were there. So still that time, we were not much using that type of conversion systems using vacuum or tubes. So what we does in the latest, or personally what we were doing this, we have changed all this and we have changed to normally, or the power systems like power electronics devices like IGBTs, MOSFETs and all. The main advantage of this is that it can have a very high power handling capacity compared to any other devices or similar devices in the electronics. So IGBTs and MOSFETs are used for this type of conversion, and where it is used and what is the purpose of it, definitely I will let you know. So this you must definitely make use of the slide. You see an IGBT, the symbol of IGBT you can make out, and the terminal, pin terminals or the pin configuration also you can just have a look at it. And you see, when it comes to a MOSFET, normally MOSFET is used wherever the power handling is little less than IGBT. Both will be using it, but still there is the IGBT handles more power. And you see the simple, or you can see, just see the right side how it is being given. And you see both the symbols, they have some diodes across that. You know that, you see it's already inbuilt diodes. If there are some places where we don't use inbuilt diodes, we use externally from emitter to collector and all, we can connect it. Especially when you drive a relay or anything like that, when you use like a circuits like that, we use a diode in the reverse fashion like this connected. Why it is? This is used as a protection for the previous circuit. What happens is, whenever any switching happens, definitely it can be a reverse current flow that can be avoided using this type of diodes. It's known as a freewheeling diodes. That's the one we use across the relays and all, always you can see that. Whenever the relay chatters or whenever relay switch off or changes the position, definitely there will be a reverse current that can damage the driver of that circuit. So what we do is we connect a diode parallel to that according to the reverse connection, so that what happened, it definitely return back to the original place. For that only we use that diode. Okay, so these are things we use for the latest inverter technologies. We use this one for switching it. Why we require switching and all, I will just come to you coming slides. Okay, the next I will go to the next, the block diagram of it. Just initially I have two diagrams on this one. One, the top one, if you see in the blue one, it's a basic inverter diagram. Just see that it's a battery, and the battery is driving a MOSFET. A MOSFET, actually, you already seen that. If you connect voltage to the gate of that, definitely it will work as like a transistor. Definitely switch on, and we can control that DC supply, and we can say a breakable DC, or we can say a pulsating DC, that can be given to a transformer. And definitely a transformer will not work in DC, it will work only in AC or a pulsating DC. Definitely that will change the inductance of the secondary, and that depend upon step up or step down, definitely we can get the output that will be connected to the output, so that we can, from the battery, the AC power is definitely converted. Okay, now if you go to the second one, you see that block diagram. If you see, it's a 220 volt 50 cycle single phase inverter block diagram. We have what we have in our hand. We have only a battery, but from that battery we require a 230 volt or 220 volt 50 cycle normal commercial output. Then only we'll be able to drive any loads on that. Okay, now I will just briefly explain the block of that one. See this, it is the battery. You can see on the left side of the block, it has got two branches. One is connected to a oscillator stage. Okay, from the battery we have a circuitry running an oscillator, and that oscillator is running according to our requirement. If it is in India and all, we use it for 50 cycles, or if it's somewhere in the US or somewhere else and all, they use 60 hertz. So according to that, we just make an oscillator according to our requirement. Okay, then the top block, you see, it's a high frequency inverter stage using ferrite core. Why they specially telling ferrite core? Because the transformer, if you don't use a ferrite core at high frequencies, it won't able to, if we use that mutual induction. So at the all high frequency transformers uses ferrite cores only for the primary and secondary. I mean, for the transformer, primary secondary separation will be done through the ferrite cores. A normal transformer or normal linear power supply, we can use a laminated core, right? Laminated metal cores. But this type of transformers or high frequency transformers, definitely we require ferrite core. And the advantage of using this high frequency, definitely the size can be reduced to a very maximum comparing to the other power supplies. So this one, we are oscillator, I mean the high frequency inverter, and we get a AC, high frequency AC. Again, we rectify it. You see now, it is coming from battery 12 volt. It is, you see, inverted to 220 volt output. And this 220 volt, what it does, it given to a bridge rectifier and made it to DC again. You see here, started from DC, then gone to AC, then again rectifier, make it to DC. This DC, you see, again it is going to an H bridge inverter. It's written there. What is H bridge? I'll let you know. Okay, so this DC voltage is connected to inverter, and this inverter is switched, or we can say this inverter is on and off, is done the switching action on and off done by the block of 50 hertz oscillator. That means this inverter, H bridge inverter, switches the DC pulses according to that frequency for coming from the 50 or 60 hertz circuit. That means that MOSFET or IGBT's gate has been given from this supply. So according to this only, 50 cycle means it will switch on and off 50 cycles. So we will get a output 50 cycle. So this inverter, we just make it 220 volt AC output. This is the block of it. Now I'll let you know the pure circuit diagram of this block. Okay, now you see here, this block, if you see here, it's the same block, the diagram which I shown before, this one is the same. Now here, I will just start from the battery again. You see the battery, in the previous block, we have two branches, no? One is going to an oscillator. See here, it is coming down to the 555 oscillator. Okay, if see here, if you happen to see this 12 volt, this line is coming to the oscillator. This oscillator actually works on the frequency of 50 hertz or whatever, this one. And the other one, see, it is a ready-made converter circuit. There it was a block, but here it is a ready-made. Just make it 12 volt input. If you give, we get a 220 volt AC output, 50 kilohertz. You see the frequency of this. This is a very high frequency output, because you see here, this one is working at a frequency of 50 kilohertz. And you see the before that oscillator is working 50 hertz, but this converter is working on 50 kilohertz. That means we are getting an output from the 12 volt input we are giving to this one, and we are getting an output of 220 volt 50 kilohertz. This high frequency AC output, again we are rectifying it with a very fast switching, because when high frequency diodes and all, we have to use very fast switching diodes. Okay, so this one is done in bridge fashion. Definitely we are rectifying it, and the rectified output will be, because when 220 volt AC, when it is fully rectified with a bridge, definitely the output will be around 300 or something. Okay, so this output is coming DC. It is connected to, you see here, there are 1, 2, 3, there are 4 MOSFETs are connected here. This 4 consisted as an H bridge. We call it this 4 as H bridge converters, we call it. And you know how this is working? I will let you know in the coming slides. Okay, so we are giving a DC supply to this circuit, and this DC supply, we have to make it 220 volt AC. How we will make it that 220 volt AC? That I will let you know in the coming sessions. Okay, now you see here, this total circuit now from DC converted to high frequency AC, again that converted to DC. This DC is converted to not high frequency, but the frequency of our commercial power, our utility normal 50 cycle power. That means this all 4, that means this all 4 MOSFETs working, switching according to the frequency of this oscillator of 50 cycles. That means the DC is coming here, and that 220 volt 50 cycles we are getting as an output. This is a normal basic 220 volt inverter circuit. Definitely, I think you understand the changeover of DC to AC, AC to again DC, again it is coming to the AC. So this is the thing actually happening in a normal inverter circuit. Okay, now I will let you know a little bit of the H bridge, how that thing is doing, what actually this MOSFET is doing, and how it is making that DC voltage to AC voltage. Okay, before that I tell you, see, whenever we are getting the output of this, we have around 3 types of outputs, depend upon the circuits. But we always insist on getting a pure sine wave, because there are so many reasons why we go for sine wave. Because if you use a square wave for a transformer, definitely that we will not get the proper output, because sudden change in. because we require a constant change of the flux, and then only we'll get a transformer output. So likewise, not only that, there are so many reasons why we use a sine wave. Even this modified sine wave also, it is as good as sine wave only, because see, there is a slight variation, but it is almost sine wave, but we are using always sine wave for a proper efficient working of the devices. That's what we always go for it. If depend upon the time permits, definitely I will let you know why the three difference output. Okay, we'll go to the next one. How this domestic inverters has been classified now. I mean, this inverters has been classified. First one, it is classified based on the applications, because inverters applications are the numerous applications are there. So we just only to make you understand, we just go for only a little bit of inverters. The first one is the domestic inverters. You know, the domestic inverters, you know, we use in our day-to-day life in our home, when our supply trips off the fan or the light or whatever things and all depend upon the capacity of the inverter, we can use the load. So that is how we use the domestic inverters. Then comes the industrial inverters. This industrial inverters, actually, it's a very vast subject actually, because this industrial inverters uses so many places actually. One is AC DC drives actually, because AC to DC, DC to AC drives and all, we are using this inverters, we are using it. Then turbines, we are using it, because turbines with the motor, whatever it may be, we are using it. Then boilers, then PLCs. It's all places we use in the industries, actually we are using it. Okay, then if you use the source, uh, according to the source of the inverter, we are classified again into two. One is the current source inverters, and the next one is the voltage source inverter. Actually, the current source inverters, you know what happened is, from the DC supply to the inverter, from the DC to the inverter, we use an inductor in series. Why we use an inductor in series with this current source? Why? Because we require a constant current irrespective of any slight variation. We require a constant current to the inverter from the rectifier side or a DC side. For that, we use current source inverters. And where we are using it, I'll let you know. Then we have a voltage source. Voltage also, why? Because is from the rectifier, we are connecting a capacitor across the line. Why? Because the capacitor will hold any slight variations of the voltages and give a constant output to the inverter. For that, we are using these two inverters, depend upon the source of the inverters. Okay. Now the next one. According to the load also, we have the inverters has been classified. Okay, the inverter has been classified. Half bridge inverters are using it. Full bridge inverters. This full bridge only we just now saw in that circuit that 4 MOSFETs are used. If it is half bridge, definitely there will be only 2 MOSFETs will be there. And if you use a half bridge, what happens is the DC voltage, we get half of the voltage only to the output. But in full bridge, whatever the input voltage if we give, suppose if we give 100 voltage DC, definitely the output will be 100 voltage. That is the main difference of it, and depend upon the requirements, we use half or full bridge. Then the next one, that is comes under single phase inverter. Then comes the 3-phase inverter. And we know the 3-phase inverter, definitely the phase difference should be 120 degrees apart from the 3 lines, L1, L2 and L3. 3 lines should be apart 120 degrees. So this 3-phase inverters, we are using a lot of places in the industries as well in the commercial purpose also. Okay, that power, I mean that where it is the 3-phase is used, I will come across in the coming slides. The next one, we again it is classified into normal AC power inverter or a solar power inverter. Even though there is a little bit of difference, but the amounts to same almost, but it is, we again classify normal our alternate current power inverters, normal power inverters, and the solar power inverters. Because when we go for solar power inverter, there are some additional systems or some devices we are actually adding to that. So this comes the classification of the solar uh, inverters. Okay, now I will let you know one by one what actually we were just crossing it. You see here, I just crossed before our H bridge inverters, is it not? If you happen to see this MOSFET, if you see here, we are giving a 12-volt supply to the MOSFET, and the MOSFET is switched according to the requirement from a separate IC, as a driver circuit we use it. That driver actually, previously I shown a circuit that is 50 cycle, right? Same cycle, same frequency. This will be driving this P channel or this N channel MOSFETs. You see here, it is an animated way. You see the change of switching. See now, the TR1 and TR4 is conducting. And what was the direction of the motor? Now you see TR3 and TR2 is conducting. What is the direction of the motors? Can you see that? It's clearly shown the 12-volt DC power is converted to AC by changing the switching of these MOSFETs. That actually, you see the direction of the motor. The arrow of the motor, it is changing according to the switching. Is it not? So it is very clear how a DC is converted to AC by this fashion. Now I'll tell you one complicated factor in this. Whenever we are switching this, what will happen if I switch TR1 and TR2, this left side MOSFET both together, or before switching off the other two, if I switch on the rest two, what will happen is, you see example, TR1 and TR2 is switched on at a time, or by mistake it has been switched on. Definitely what will happen, you see here the 12-volt positive and that 0-volt definitely comes through both of this and get directly shorted. That means it will definitely, it will burn the system. So very much care should be taken. The switching pulses when you design or when you apply to this MOSFET, you switch on the alternate one only after switching off the other one. Never switch on the alternate one before cutting off the other two. If it is does, then there will be a shorting and this can make a big loss on the circuit. Okay, so this is how we make a DC to AC power. I think it's more clear. This is a very basic of it, how we change that direct current to a alternate current. You see here, and how you may be having a doubt how this changing is done. This changing is done through these circuits. You see, there are some gates, some NOT gates and AND gates or whatever gates is there. This makes the circuit switch on, or this will given we can use a microprocessor. We can program it and we can make the switching pulses according to the requirement. So nowadays, only microprocessor only does everything, all this. This only to make you understand this is the one. Okay, so this is the one H bridge fashion, the conversion of DC to AC power. Then we'll go to the next one. Before, I think before I told that last one which I shown was only a single phase converter, right? Inverter, right? It was single phase only. But single phase is not only the solution for this inverter. Actually, we require so many places the three phase. From the battery, we require three-phase AC, three-phase DC, or even pulsating. Everything we require it. Depend upon our requirement. It depend upon our load, whatever the load we are using it. So this is a basic circuit. How a three-phase is done? It is also same way only. Switching off this FETs, I mean MOSFETs, according to the requirement of the 120-degree apart. So this will switch on and switch off 120 apart like last H bridge. Same way it does, and we get a ABC lines, three-phase line from this DC power supply. And how this is achieved? We have a microprocessor based technology actually in another circuit, and that is the one actually we are giving this pulse width modulation strategy. This pulse width modulation strategy only we are using to make this exactly the frequency and the amplitude or whatever we can completely adjust or control the motor speed depend upon the PWM technology. The PWM technology I will come to you later on. Okay. Actually, this is a special type of strategy they are using it. Actually, see, You see, actually, it is a vector technology we call it, and this one actually for the smooth operation of AC or DC motors, we are using this type of three-phase AC inverters. It's very, very important in the commercial life. I will let you know some of the other one. And where and all we are using it. You see, the three-phase inverter we use sometime in variable frequency drive. You know what is that variable frequency drive? We call it VFDs. VFDs means, you know, actually the motors, AC motors or BLDC motors has been controlled by the pulse width modulation technology. So VFDs nowadays is very, very popular in all the controlling sessions of the motors. Previously, we are using so many induction motors and all that, but now we are almost switching out to the inverter technology motors. Okay. Then again, this three-phase we are using for high voltage DC transmission also we are using it. Have you ever heard of that high voltage DC transmission? We can never think of it now, right? Because we are using all the transmission, power transmission in AC only. 220 volt, 220 kilovolt and all we are, because from the power generation places to a long distance, we make the voltage at a very high level. From the 3.3 kV generation system, it makes to 220 kilovolt. Then we will transmit it. Why we increase the voltage and transmit? Because of the line loss. To reduce the line loss, we increase the voltage and transmit it. Because the line is common, but if the voltage is increased, then you can say definitely the current will come down, right? So the loss of voltage, line drop due to heat and all, we can reduce it. That's why we are using AC supply in a high voltage. But very recently, people started doing research on transmitting high voltage DC. And after DC, okay, we can make it, because we requirement is definitely comes back to AC. But for the transmission side, we have found out there are some reasons why we use DC transmission. You know why? Because if you happen to see any tower, very high tension towers and all, and some early morning or some dew places and very dew is available in the atmosphere, we can see from that insulator side, we can see some arcing. If you see some towers, very high voltage towers, and if you watch sometimes, we can hear some sound or some arcing also we can see. Slight arcing, continuously it will be arcing. That is actually what is happening is from the atmosphere, there will be water molecules or any conductive molecules, it short circuit, or you can say it is just leaking the voltage to the ground. But if we use this high voltage DC, that and all we can just avoid it. There are so many losses. Actually, research is going on with that high voltage DC. You can see when after some years, all this AC transmission and all will be stopping and they will come to the DC. But whenever we require in the commercial one, that DC, they will convert it to AC and they will use it again. So that is the research is going on now, and definitely there will be changes in that. And you see after some time, this all DC transmissions, and mostly it will be underground or submerged one, under the water or under the ground and all. There will be mostly it will be transmitted like that. So that you can see there are so many accidents of AC, shock accidents or something like that. We can reduce that. So this is the one actually high voltage DC, and that is done from where? From the inverters. So definitely, so that three-phase inverter is very useful for that. Now you see the next one. Some of the applications, I just say the inverter. Utility power as it is, we know that. Then UPS, you know that. Induction heating. Have you ever heard of induction heating? I think you must be having in your home sometimes this induction cookers or induction heaters. Actually, what is the principle behind it? Actually, if you happen to open that inductor, you can see at the bottom plate, there will be a coil around that. There will be a big coil, the big diameter around 12 inches or even more coil around that will be there. And that coil works as a primary, and the primary will get very high frequency input. We have an inverter inside which makes the voltages in the frequency very high, and this high voltage, this high frequency, the transformer primary, if you use a induction friendly utensil like with a bottom which is induction friendly, that will act as a secondary, and the secondary, it is a shorted plate, so definitely will be heated up. So that principle only the induction is working. So it is working on a very high frequency, and that is done through this inverters only. Then comes the variable frequency drives. As I told before, variable frequency drives. I'll let you know what happens with the variable frequency drives. Have you ever heard of our inverter technology air conditioners? Inverter technology. So when you go buy for a air conditioner, they will ask what type of AC you want, inverter type or 5 star or 3 star and all of that. So actually what happened is when we use an uh, inverter technology air conditioner, the compressor will never stops. The main advantage of that is that the power consumption can be reduced by not stopping the compressor. The compressor will be always on. Whenever the temperature is achieved, the the compressor speed will come down. And when the compressor speed come down, the power consumption comes down. And by the time that cooling comes down, so that cooling comes down, again the temperature sensor will detect that, again speed will increase. So the speed only will changes and the compressor will never stop. But in the commercial, normally we use the ACs and all before. That AC, what happens when, suppose if you set it for 25 degree, when the temperature reach 25 degrees, the compressor cuts off. Temperature reach this thing, that compressor definitely cuts off. You can hear the sound also. Completely, it will be completely silent. Then the temperature again increases. This cooling will start, then compressor will switch on again. That means the compressor will on and off depend upon the temperature. A compressor will take around 3 to 4 times more current than a normal running time, so that frequent switching on and off will definitely consume more than 30% of energy than not switching off. So that technology only we are using in the inverter technology. That's the reason why we go for inverter ACs and all. Why? Because the compressor will never stop. It will just slow down or it will increase speed and will never stop, so that the surge current and the current can be almost saved by around 30%. That's the main reason why we go for inverter ACs. Okay. Then the next one, you see the electric vehicle drives. You see a Tesla car or something, whatever the electric car, if you say hybrid car or electric car, you just pure electric or hybrid, whatever it may be, the drive is taken from a battery. Is it not? The DC power only, but the motor is running on 3-phase. Either it will be a BLDC or an induction motor, whatever it may be, depend upon their requirement or their consumption, they use either BLDC or they use an induction motors. Okay, so electric vehicle drive also, this inverter comes into action by electric. Okay, next one. These are some of the common applications where use inverters. All the household items, some motors, then electric tools, printers, then cooking utensils, then automobiles, rescue and relief, first aid and all. You see, first aid and all, we require inverters. Why? Because there are so many equipments running on DC. So all that equipments runs actually converted after conversion only they are using it. Suppose they say ICU based you see a first aid van or you can say an ambulance. Definitely there are so many equipments. So that all running from the battery. For the battery it has definitely converted to AC. So that's what you require in that also. Okay, the next one, I'll just do a small diagram of an electric vehicle where we use a battery to convert into the traction motors. You see here actually here instead of just showing only an inverter, you see I am just showing whatever the possible powers available in a normal hybrid vehicle, we call it. It's a hybrid electric vehicle. EV means it's electric vehicle. Sorry. Okay, so it has got a battery. Battery definitely 12 volt or whatever it may be. If you make it series parallel, you can make the voltage high or low, whatever it may be. Okay, then it is connected to a converter, DC to DC converter. So even DC to DC converter also, inside if you see, definitely it has to be increased or decreased by definitely conversion of the inverters only. Okay, then batteries available. Then there is something like a super capacitor. In every vehicle there will be, I mean the electronic vehicle, there will be something like a super capacitor. Then an additional one is a fuel cell. That means that's why I told it's a hybrid one. That means there are two energy sources in available there. Battery, you know, everyone knows what is a battery and it how it works, charging, discharging, and all that. It has got a charging rate and a discharging rate. Definitely it takes time for the charging or discharging. Okay. Sorry. If you, in case of a supercapacitor, the capacitor charges and discharges very rapidly. Very fast it charges or discharges. So what happened? No, the new latest technology in electric vehicle, if you are driving at a speed of 60 kilometers, suddenly if you are playing a brake or you are playing a supply, suddenly you are reducing the speed. What will happen? It is a forced one, right? Because your wheel is running at a speed and that wheel will drive the motor in a separate speed. So what happened is we as what I say, that energy we will take back as a charging current. So whenever we reduce the speed, that difference of that speed definitely will come back as a as a charging. And the battery, you know, it will charge, it will take time to charge the full load. By the time the supercapacitor can charge at very rapid rate. So this will compensate these two. And the third one is the fuel cell. And you know what is a fuel cell? Fuel cell definitely it makes energy by making two gases or something like that. Like we can say hydrogen and oxygen, if you mix together, definitely we can make some energy, electricity we can make through that. And that electricity again we can convert it to DC to DC. And again that all the three DC sources link through that, it is connected to an inverter. That inverter does what? So single phase is coming from the battery source. And you see the DC inverter converts into a three-phase AC. This three-phase AC, and that electric motor drives from this three-phase, and that drive is connected to the housing, and the housing, or you can say the differential, and the differential is given to the wheels. So this is the function of an inverter in a electric vehicle, and we call it a hybrid. Instead of fuel cell, we can use even petrol engine also, we can use it. There are vehicles with normal petrol engine or diesel engine along with the battery DC motors, electric vehicle. So that is also an hybrid. Okay. Now you see these inverters used in the electric trains. You know, normal electric train, you can see there's a line on the top and the wheel on the track like that. So from the top, you get around 25,000 or 25 kV voltage is coming. And that as from the top is coming, the face is coming the top, and the bottom from the rail you will get the neutral or the negative. And this one is again rectified, and this is converted back to the AC and given to the three-phase traction motors. So these are the places we use inverters mainly in this commercial purposes. So I think you got an idea of the importance of inverter in different places where we are using it. Okay. So with this, I just conclude the inverter part of it. Now we have, there are two separate parts, that is one is SMPS as well as the UPS. And you know, the thing is that the main part actually in this both circuit, the inverter plays a big role in that. So that I can go faster, so that we can finish the session by 3 with all this things. Okay, so that now I'll just go a little more faster. See the next slide, I just making a solar power. See the solar power, I will make it fast because we have a running short of time. This is the basic solar. Actually, what happening is that, see from the solar, see it is coming through a circuit breaker, it is connected to a charge controller. This is a charge controller. Okay, and charge controller has got temperature sensors, then it has got a charging circuit, then there is a load circuit. From the load it is connected to the bulbs. Okay, and outside we can say again USB or whatever it may be, you can take it. This is the basic solar power circuit. A normal very low power solar, this is the one we use it. Okay, now I'll just go to the little more bigger one. See here, from the solar I am getting around 36 volts. See here, from the solar, if I connect the solar panel series, parallel and all that, I can make it around 36 volt. And that is again, I am converted to DC with an MPPT controller. Actually, we can say the maximum peak power. We can say this one is a separate technology used along with that. The output they will always concentrate the output of the solar at the maximum. So these are the latest technology, the MPPT control circuit we also often use with this solar system, so that we can get even at the different levels also we can get the maximum output from the solar. And that DC make it around 400 volts. This 400 volts again is converted to again AC, and this AC is filtered and connected to the normal line out. Okay, so this is the function of a normal AC, solar inverter, and you see the voltage difference and all that. And you see this complete control is done by a microprocessor, this MC56F8023. It's a microprocessor. This is the one only controlling all these output lines. Okay. And we have around 3 types of solar system. One is the grid tied, one is the off-grid solar, and other one is hybrid solar. Okay, if you see the grid tied, you can say there won't be any storage devices for that. Whatever the solar energy is coming, it is inverter. Either it go to the house or it go to the utility grid. Whatever available, if you this thing, the power, if you want your house, you use it. Excess power it comes, you just give to the grid, so that electricity bill we can very well reduce it by giving to the utility grid. So this is going to come in even Kerala also after, or even India also after some time. You can see even now itself already started now, but it will become very popular after some time, you see. So this inverter also playing a big role in that. Okay. That is a grid power. That means there is a storage system directly connected to the grid as well as the house power. The next one you see here is off-grid power. The off-grid means we are not having any connection to the grid. We are not giving to the grid, but whatever the energy we are getting it, we are storing it into our battery bank. And we are using it, and excess we are storing it. And according, another thing is in this, we have an optional generator also. In case there is no solar in the daytime or this thing, we can use it the generator and make compensate that loss. Then the next one is the hybrid solar system. Hybrid means definitely something, two things happening together. That is only we call it hybrid. If a radio, if you hybrid radio means it will be transistor based as well as valve based. So we call it hybrid. So likewise here, hybrid means utility also is available, and you can see the battery bank also available. So here, whatever the available power, we use it, and the excess power we definitely give back to the utility. So there also inverter plays a very big role in that. Okay, so this is the importance of inverters again. Then there are some solar inverters, different types, central inverters, then string inverters, and we can module inverters. We can see that depend upon the inverters we keep nearby the solar one, or all together we can, that I'll let you know in the next coming slides. Okay, actually that depend upon the power we using according to this one. So this one you see all the solar panels combined together, and only one inverter has been connected, and that inverter is connected to the grid. This one is known as central inverter. This one is very popularly used also. Then again it will be costly one, but you see here this second one, the left side is a string inverters. Around a group of solar panels connected together, and one inverter is used, and all the three different inverters has been grouped together and connected to the grid. Then the last one is a micro inverter, means independent. Each solar panel will have a inverter, and that will be connected together and given to the grid. So this is known as a micro inverters. With this, I just finished the inverter part of it. Now I'll just go fastly the UPS. The new UPS actually it's a very common device, and it is a very useful device. All you know about the UPS because everyone uses the computer system or whatever some system which we require a uninterruptible power supply. That means whenever any power supply failure happens, it should not affect the output or the device. So if a computer, if you say is a computer, if you are working and suddenly supply went, if you don't use the system, definitely our data and all we can very well lose it. At the same time, if you see here, there are some places where in the operation theater or something like that, where we require an uninterrupted power, definitely we have to use something like this UPS or something like. What will happen is we should not have any interruption at all. For that, we use a UPS system. Okay. You see the block diagram. What happen is whenever power is available, it will directly go to the load, and at the same time that will be charging the battery also. As a normal operation is like that. Whenever the power is available, it never happens anything, even though the battery is always on, but main power is coming from the grid and it is going to the load. And you see the second one, bottom, if you see here, whenever the power fails, definitely it will change over from the battery, and the battery will definitely invert to the normal required voltages. So this is the principle of it. And you see here, this diagram I'm just showing only to know you about a static bypass switch. It's a very important one. See, this switch actually what does, if there's no power interruption or anything like that, it will be definitely bypassing that one. Okay, you see the signal of the input. See, the signal is not a clear one. So you see that it has got, then that signal has been crossed from the surge protection device, then rectifiers, then DC, then inverter, then again you can see the protection device. Then you see the final output is a very clear AC signal. So this is one of the advantage of the UPS. From a very bad shape signal, you can make a very good shape also. So that means very clear the pulses. Okay. So this bypass switch, you know, the bypass, the mean itself, you can avoid something. That is not a bypass. So if you switch on the bypass, all these equipments, all the devices is just bypass, and the input is directly connected to the output. Okay. So there, the one we use the bypass switch. And this UPS, we have three types. One is the online UPS, or we call it a double conversion UPS, or a true online UPS. The second one is the offline UPS. This online UPS means, you know, the power is available. Even though the power is available, the battery backup is always on. So that means whenever any power failure comes, the changeover will not make any effect. That means there is no changeover time. There is no time. That means it's very, very rapid. That is the main advantage of online UPS. Offline means whenever supply fails, definitely it will change over from the mains. That switch will change over to the battery. So that means there will be a little bit of delay maybe there. Then the next one is the line interactive UPS. This line interactive UPS, actually, what it does is, see the line interactive UPS, I'll just show you. This is the line interactive UPS. The utility power is coming, but there is a voltage regulator in between. Why? Because if the offline UPS, what happens is, whenever the utility fails or even the utility power is varied, very little bit of variation happens, definitely this transfer switch will definitely change over to the battery. Either no power or even voltage variation happens, this will definitely change over and the battery will take up the load. But in the line interactives is something like that. If there is little bit of change, this voltage regulator definitely make up that change. That means that the reduction or the voltage, excess voltage, definitely it will control, and this transfer switch will not unnecessarily change over the battery. Even slight variation or comes. That means, yeah, otherwise there is no much difference between the offline and this line interactive. Only thing, additionally, a voltage regulator has been and a filter has been connected to that. That's all the difference between these two UPS systems. Okay. Now, the features, you can say the UPS is actually protects from the critical loads, then the spikes, voltage, or that I shown in that waveform, very clear waveform, we'll get it outside. That is one of the best advantage of UPS. Then the rapid changeover, it will take only around 3 to 8 milliseconds rather than inverter. Inverter may take around 500 milliseconds, but this will take only a 3. Then online UPS, it's around 5 kVA or more. Offline, we can say it's our normal computer type 1 kVA, 500 milli, or like that, we only be using it. Okay. Now the last lesson, we are just coming to the switching mode power supply. It's a very, very versatile power supply which converts electric power with a very high efficiency. Why we go for the SMPS, the main advantage is that the efficiency is around 90% of this normal power, comparing to the 40% or whatever other linear power. This is around 90%. That's the main advantage we go for SMPS. You know why? Simple. A lithium battery, we have 3-volt supply is there, but I wanted to bring it down to 1.8. To bring it down to 1.8, I have to reduce the voltage by some means. Definitely, I will waste that much power by heat if you use a transistor or something. So that means around 0.12 watts I'm using by heat, and we get efficiency only around 40%. So if you use an SMPS, we get around 90% efficiency. That's why we always go for SMPS. Okay, and now you see the block diagram on SMPS. Actually, it's a you can see we are at two parts. One is a low voltage part and the high voltage part. Actually, we have it. You see here the AC input, what we get it from the mains. We had rectified it, then filtered it. Then there is a switching device. There only we use an inverter, switching MOSFETs or IGBT. We use it. This DC converted to AC. That AC is been high frequency transformer as step down transformer. Then that will again make it into rectified version, then filter, then we'll get a DC output. And you see, there's a one more thing from the DC output. We have an isolator. That means we have a feedback. Suppose the voltage goes high, what happened? The output, the high voltage has been fed back to the control circuit. Definitely the switching speed or the PWM control, we reduce the width of the signal, or increase the width. By doing this, definitely we can make the output very, very constant. That means that is the main advantage of SMPS, because we have a feedback, and definitely we will, all the error has been correctly balanced. Okay, and you see the main advantage is that there is an isolation between the output part and input part. One is done by a transformer. You can see it is magnetically coupled, and the feedback is connected through an isolator or opto isolator through a opto coupler. That means the right side and left side is completely isolated, though there is no issues of any electric direct connections. Okay. This one is the direct real circuit diagram of a PC SMPS. We have a 5 volt, 3.3 volt, 12 volt, plus 12, minus 12, all that thing. It is done by the same way what I have shown just before. Okay, and this is the connector of the PC. We use all these voltages for to the motherboard. And applications of SMPS, it from the personal computers, then we can say chargers, vehicle controls, space vehicles, consumers, lighting, space station, all the places we use SMPS. And this is a comparison of linear and SMPS. Linear, you see 30 to 40% only, and the SMPS around 60 to 95%. Then regulation by switching, PWM. Then the noise. Of course, there is a radio noise in the SMPS, but the other noise is not there in the linear. Then size and weight. You can see high frequency means you can have a very, very low weight, low size also. Then the frequency is around 50 cycle for the linear, as well as in this one, 15 to mega cycles. So that's what the main difference between these two. Okay, and this with this, I'll just conclude my presentation. I think I have little time, around 2 minutes. If anybody have any doubt, please, you can make it now.